If you've not already watched part 1, please click on my channel and click the feature-length videos to watch part 1. And then by all means come back and watch part 2. I decided on another 2-night, 3-day, 40-mile hike whose cumulative elevation gain landed around the 11,300 foot mark. On this trip, I started my hike from Straight Fork Road. I traveled Hyatt Ridge Trail. I went out and then back on the spur of Hyatt Ridge Trail. I continued west on Inlow Creek Trail, then north on Hughes Ridge Trail to reach Peck's Shelter. On day 2, I continued 3/4 of a mile to reach the AT. I traveled 5.1 miles northeast on the AT. Turning onto the 5.7 mile section of Balsam Mtn Trail, I hiked out and back, returning to the Tricorner Shelter. On day 3, I continued 3.7 miles northeast on the AT. I did a quick out and back on the 0.7 mile section of Snake Den Ridge. Then I continued 4.5 miles north on the AT. Finally, I turned west on Low Gap Trail, traveling 2.9 miles to reach my car in the Cosby Campground. In part 1, we saw some beautiful plants along the Hyatt Ridge Trail, like this Turk's Cap Lily, some marginal wood ferns, crimson bee balm, and Virginia spiderwort. I also saw a dusky salamander and got rained on. On the early part of Inlow Creek, I saw some cool red mushrooms, white mushrooms, and even cute itty-bitty mushrooms. There were even blooming rhododendron. I crossed a cool, heavy-duty bridge over Raven Fork Creek and saw a cool campsite. Turns out it was a great place to eat lunch. Continuing on, there were cut-leaf coneflowers and white bergamot. I crossed a beautiful but slippery stream and filtered water. I was late reaching Hughes Ridge, so I had to hurry, but I ended up having to do some night hiking after all. Well, it turns out that that building last night, was not the shelter. I'm told that it is a building for supplies when they used to patrol it more regularly by horse. But it gave me an interesting side trip, some interesting trivia to look at. I'll look that up when I get back. Meanwhile, the shelter is just a good old shelter. Anyway, some really great people here at the shelter. Some through hiking, all that. Just a typical shelter. But came in here late at night, just put myself down, went to sleep, drank some water. So this morning had a breakfast sandwich that I had in a Ziploc, and I just used that for my breakfast today. So now I'm going to pack up my rainfly, my poncho, put on my hat, and we're off to the races, or at least off to the hike. Well, I said goodbye to the others. It's really nice people. I don't generally like sleeping in shelters. My experience, at least thus far, has been that for the most part, you meet some pretty good people, and that's no exception last night. Really good. One person, like I said, is through hiking. 2 other people, actually, one of them actually grew up where I now live, which is kind of interesting. But it is such a beautiful area, and one thing typically people will share in common is that there is a love for the beauty. Whether you're a botanist, ecologist, mammologist, or if you have no basis at all in the sciences, there is a universal appreciation for just the rich greenery, the symbiotic, mutualistic relationship between organisms and a network. Yes, competition, but at the same time, a lot of cooperation too. So it is a beautiful thing, just aesthetically as well as knowing what goes on. It is truly a wonderful experience to be able to come up here and be in all of this. Thought I had lost my USB cord, which would have been the end of the video, basically. I have to have that for my lithium-ion battery to charge up my phone. I have got to get a new phone that will hold a charge. Okay, but I have been super lazy, and it's now about 8:45. And I go ahead and take off. It's a short, 5-6 miles to Tricorner Shelter that I'm heading to. But I'm going to dump my stuff off there, then go kind of light and zip out on that Balsam Mountain Trail. Try and finish up the section that I didn't get to when I did my last hike. That's the reason I'm camping again in just about 6 miles, is because I'm going to do another about 8. It'll be around 14, 15 for the whole day. Off we go. We're going to come back onto the Hughes trail. And I will turn right, heading northeast-ish towards the AT. Just a moment ago, you saw there was a bunch of people, tents camped right there on the trail. I know during the pandemic that there was special dispensation to allow people to set up tents around the shelter, which I understood to be right around the shelter, and to help with social distancing and all that. Now, I believe it was just this spring or summer that they revoked that, and therefore no longer allowed to pitch tents and camp right around the shelter. You had to be in the shelter. Maybe they just don't realize that, or they just haven't had a chance to catch on, or it wasn't told to them yet, something like that. So that was interesting. Just saw a nice white blaze on the tree, obvious splotch white paint, and that is a telltale, actually giveaway sign that you're on the Appalachian Trail. So this has to be the intersection. Yeah, there's the sign. I'm cheating. That white blaze on the tree to the right there gave it away. Balsam Mountain Trail. Whoa. Okay, yeah, the sign's a bit tilted. For some reason, so is my phone. I'm not sure why. I'll have to fix that. But 5.3 to Balsam Mountain Trail, which is what I'm going to be working on today. About 5 miles is the shelter where I can dump my stuff off at. So I'm going to head on that way, get on Balsam Mountain, finish off that section that I didn't get to earlier. So, back at that sign there, you saw that we were on the Appalachian Trail, and there's been a little bit of breeze here and there. All of a sudden now we're starting to get just constant breezes with a little bit of that cloud moisture to it. So, finally it's nice and cool. It's lovely. You off really up on the ridgeline, you start to get some really nice views as well, like this.
The wind here was so strong that it more or less made the audio useless. What I was saying was that while you could not see much, you can see that the beautiful mist wafting over the mountains, looking more like a graceful, ethereal stream flowing over the mountain and gliding through the trees. It evokes a sense of intrigue, not knowing what lies just beyond the few feet your eyes can penetrate the mist. Combine this with the rich, verdant green, the cool breeze that surrounds you. How cool! In both terms of aesthetics and temperature. It felt like I was in another world. For a time, my fatigue, my other cares and concerns seemed to recede, sliding almost imperceptibly beneath the mist that surrounded me. I suspect that while one can certainly get a general feel for what I'm describing in connection with the video, it takes having personally been through an experience like this in order to fully appreciate the totality of the experience. What a gift and a privilege it is that the Lord allows us such indefinable beauty to behold.
Love those shafts of light penetrating through the mist. You can't get more soothing, relaxing than a view with the mist wafting through the trees. It is for that reason I've decided to just stop and take a break up the trip. I left a good 2.5 hours earlier on today's hike than I did yesterday's hike. So with the shorter distance, I think I can afford to take one or two, just sit back, relax, take off the pack and lean back into the nice hillside. It's got just kind of like a recliner. Sit back and enjoy. And since I'm already down to about 65% of my battery, man, this thing does not hold a charge. I figure this is a good time to charge it while I'm doing that. So we'll take a moment to enjoy the peace. Oh, look at this. With the mist and the clouds scuttling past the sun, it goes from this mystical, can't hardly see it, to brilliant shafts of sunlight, to mist in the darkness. Oh, it's gorgeous. Amazing what a change in lighting can do for the trail, huh? Absolutely beautiful. I'm sorry it's shaky. I'm not using the gimbal for this shot. But isn't that beautiful? Ah, gorgeous. Here's a nice little view from the Appalachian Trail where it's cleared out a little bit. The fog has kind of gone away. You get to see out to the other mountains a little. I'm sure you have deduced that I am leaning ever so slightly to the exhausted side in terms of energy. I guess I didn't hide it too well, did I? Thought I'd take a break here for just a little bit. I think we're about 2/3 the way up to the shelter, and evidently we just passed Mount Sequoia at 5,968 feet. As you can, the little arrow up top is where we're at, right up here, and the pointer's right here where we just passed. So, should have mentioned it. Looking at the trail, when breaks in the tree canopy here allow light to come in, it makes such a huge contrast. The greens and brilliant light contrasted against the darker shades of where the tree canopy is intact, and the shades of the trunks of the trees make such a beautiful contrast here along the ridge of the Appalachian Trail. Well, thought I'd take another break here. I'm just behind me, to the left of the trail in the direction I'm going, is Mount Chapman. It's at 6,431 feet. This is getting up there. One of the taller ones. As you may be able to see, so you back it up a little bit there. The little white arrow at the bottom is where the mountain is. The little blue arrow in the top right corner there is where I'm at. So, not bad. Able to at least recognize another landmark as I go by. Well, I've been hoofing it and actually got cell signal up here. Returned a text to someone asking how I was doing, so just put that away and I get ready to go. And my GPS vibrated, proximity alarm. So I'm pretty close. In fact, I think it's right around the corner here. That we're going to get to the shelter. I think it's the shelter first, because the Balsam Mountain Trail is maybe 10th or 2 of a mile beyond that. We do have a sign. Huh. So let's head on to the shelter, set everything down. Rest a little bit, eat lunch. Then we'll see about heading up and doing the Balsam Mountain Trail. Okay, appears to be just your standard shelter.
So I dumped my pack off at the shelter and got back on the trail so I could pick up that 3 to 4 mile-ish section of Balsam Mountain Trail that I hadn't yet hiked before returning to the shelter.
Okay, now this is awesome. Right here on the trail.
I believe this is the northern red salamander, which is a new species for me.
Here on the Appalachian Trail, right next to the turnoff to my shelter. That's pretty awesome. Okay, I'm doing this without the gimbal, as you can tell, because I'm letting it finish charging. But here we are doing our stint on Balsam Mountain Road. So, time to get to it and hope it doesn't rain, because I forgot to bring my poncho. So if it does rain, phone goes inside the chest pack and do our best. Sorry, I wasn't watching the camera here. But time to get some distance. I don't have to do the entire one since I have hiked on Balsam Mountain Road before, or trail before. Well, I will say this. The picture looks a lot brighter than it does to the human eye right here. It has really clouded over. Fortunately, I'm right about to the spot where I got to previously on the last hike. So I'm feeling a little bit of drizzle, and I did not bring my poncho with me this time. Left it in the pack when I thought it was in my pocket. So I'm going to head back as quickly as I can. Probably get wet, probably have to put the camera in the chest pack and all that, but, well, we'll see. Good morning. If you'll forgive my hand holding it instead of using the gimbal, I'll get to where you can see the face better. There we go. Well, we just got up early this morning. Since there's people in the shelter, I tend not to film or record when there's people right around that can't avoid being in the shot. I don't like to put people in videos without their knowledge. In any case, got here 3:45, 4, something like that yesterday, and then relaxed, talked with a couple of really nice people, a nurse practitioner and her uncle who were doing some hiking up here. Just really nice people. So spent some time there, relaxed, then just left my stuff here and hiked Balsam Mountain Trail. And that made a long day. Didn't get back till around 7:30 or something like that. It was fairly late. And rained on me on the way back. Nothing got too wet, so it was all right. So, just about ready to go. We had, of course, the juncos. I think dark-eyed juncos. They're always everywhere and ready to catch any crumbs. And at this shelter, at this Tricorner Shelter, I think it's the evening grosbeaks are just about as bad as the juncos, but they're a lot more colorful, and I love that big bill. I didn't show it yesterday, but it's the typical shelter. You know, nice flat area to sleep on, Gets a little hard when all you have is that thin thermarest, but not bad. The thermarest actually worked pretty well. This one has right there, you can see water coming right out of a pipe right next to the shelter. This is absolutely the best water supply to shelter I have ever found in the Smokies. So kudos to them on that. And if you go over here, you can see, which you can see the bare lines right there. Honest to goodness, bathroom. Evidently the shelters along the AT, that's a common feature. Well, time to say goodbye to Tricorner Shelter and head on up the AT to the north. So we'll continue on. Right here, last night, one of those two steps was where that salamander was. In any case, it is time to keep going. Well, this is where we were yesterday. We went off to the right to do Balsam Mountain out that direction to finish off that section I hadn't done yet. And now we are heading along towards Snake Den Ridge in 3.7. Okay, just a couple of tenths or so along the Appalachian Trail from Tricorner, heading north, and you get your first look at Mount Guyot. I think that's how you pronounce it. At 6624, so it's above the 6600 level there. One of the highest peaks in the park. Really, really pretty. Hopefully we'll get an even better view later. More views from the trail. And I forgot to mention, last night we had it really downpour. After I got back to the shelter later that night, it just unloaded and just rained like crazy for about 3 hours, 4 hours. So that has cleared up things just a little bit. Isn't that beautiful? This is right off the AT here. I'm only about maybe half a mile to a mile above the Tricorner Shelter. I'm looking out between the pass between two mountains. That's either Chapman and Sequoia, or Chapman and Devil's Den. Devil's Den is further. It's probably Chapman and Sequoia. But as you zoom in, you can see, oh, isn't that pretty? It's just gorgeous, the view you get from here. Makes it worth the umpteen dozen miles, doesn't it? Isn't that beautiful? Along the ridge here, AT, it's so high up and so constantly shrouded in mist and fog. Everything is just totally coated in this green layer. Gives it almost an ethereal appearance. Beautiful, isn't it? You can see the mist just wafting through. It gives it that secretive, mysterious, mystical appeal. You can just see Mount Guyot about half a mile back in the background, I think. Beautiful. Figured I would just take a rest break here. Got about a mile and a half before I reach Inadu Knob or Knoll and the junction with Snake Den Ridge. What better place here to take a quick break?
I don't know. I don't think Ramplays are that wide. I don't think it looks like false lily of the valley either. Maybe blue-beard lily? Please let me know in the comments.
I'd say that's a decent Sunday morning view. So beautiful. hard to see against the sunlight here. Just spectacular. Look at that. They've cleared out, I don't know if this the stone underneath the grass or not, but it makes a nice little arrowhead to that point. I'm at Deer Creek Gap. I believe that's where I'm at. And if you look up, you can see to the right here is, I think it's Old Black at 6,360 feet. You can pan on over here. And now you can see, I think it's Thermal Knob and Lefty Knob heading on out that direction. We were looking out in the previous picture, we were looking out on the northwest side. Now we're looking at sort of the southeast direction on the other side of the ridge. Really, really beautiful. And this Deer Creek Gap, nice and open, kind of like a bald, and just a lot of shrubbery. But very, very pretty, right? About 6,000 feet here. So, really, really beautiful. But still need to keep going. Still have a better part of or good part of a mile to get to the turnoff for Snake Den Ridge. I'm a little past the Deer Creek Gap, or that gap I was just at. Now, Inadu Knob, I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. From what I was told by one of the people in the shelter last night, on Inadu Knob, you should be able to see like the concrete pilings that they made and put there in the 80s or something when an F4 Phantom, I think, I'll have to check this out, but they said an F4 Phantom was flew too low and crashed into the side of a mountain here right about near Inadu Knob. So they poured some concrete, made a landing for the helicopter so that they could come and salvage and get most of that out. But from what I hear, that you can still find pieces of that wrecked fighter jet. If you look around, I see something here that looks a little bit like it. Now, I could be totally off the mark here, but that almost looks like, you know, like a part of a turbofan or something that deals with engines or something like that. In any case, just thought that was interesting. By the way, if anyone knows for sure what this is, I would be tickled to hear about it in the comments. Thanks. Well, it looks like I'm finally to the point where I've reached, I think, the Snake Den Ridge Trail. So I'm going to set things down, take a brief rest. Probably set up the gimbal since I'm not on the gimbal yet. And head down, catch that 7/10 or 6/10, I think is, to the section I'm not done yet, and come back up and then continue on down to Low Gap and down to the car. Sure enough. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. Okay. Snake Den Ridge Trail. That's going to take me down this direction. I'll lose a few hundred feet, but I'll have to come back up. That'll connect me to that hike I did this past winter. Then I'll come back up and continue the trek towards my car. Here is the intersection that I saw from the other side
when I did my winter backpacking trip on Snake Den Ridge, Madron Bald Gabe's Mountain Trails.
For that hike, I remember coming right up to here, so 0.7, back up to where I came from and continue on down the AT.
So sad that all that downhill to get here is now uphill.
Well, I've been looking forward to this for about 0.7 miles, getting back to the top of that little Snake Den Ridge. I now have that chunk out of the way, and the sign is right around the corner. Almost there. Pretty, pretty. This is where Snake Den Ridge it's the AT. So I'm gonna set my stuff down, grab my pack, get something to drink, a little Go Gel, and we're ready to go.
I was starting to realize that I had taken a little more in the way of breaks than I had thought, and that I was going to have to increase my pace a bit to get to my car without having to do night hiking. So I decided one last rest and hydration break might be a good idea. And back on the AT.
This is kind of cool. When you talk about a ridge trail, you can't get any more on the ridge than drop off within 2 feet of either side of the trail. Nothing to see though, it's misty. But that is kind of a cool little ridge section. I've been making a pretty good pace, maybe 2 miles an hour. Mostly going downhill on average, no stops, since the Snaked In Ridge Appalachian Trail junction. I knew
I had a little over 4 miles from the AT Snaked In Ridge junction to reach Low Gap Trail, and that I would hit the
Camel Gap Trail in about 2 something. So I was thinking it's pretty soon, and I'm gonna take a shot that this is indeed it and take a look around the corner. Yeah, it's a clearing. You usually don't have a clearing that big unless there's a reason for it. All right, again, from my last hike, you probably recognize that with the Camel Gap Trail heading on down towards Gunter Fork. And of course, the sign here telling you that Low Gap is only 2.4 away. So I think I'll stop, rest a little bit here. Now,
Camel Gap.
now you can see it, but the last time I came, it was even more overgrown than that. So, gonna pick some of this area over here and relax a bit. Up to this point, it was all sections of the trail I hadn't done before. But now, I have a couple miles of repeat, then another mile or so of repeat, but that's all right. At least it lets me pick up that big chunk of the AT that I hadn't done yet. There we go. Here's a nice picture of hydrangea, wild hydrangea. You see that nice pattern, sawtooth pattern in the leaf, and you can see it in early bloom. And some of the some that have opened up. So pretty cool. Well, still on the AT here, but wow, anytime I can catch rhododendron in bloom, it is just beautiful. And zoom in just a little. I love how the stamen project like that. You can see that one petal with the iridescent speckles. So pretty. And right over here, we have some beautiful ones that are just getting ready to open. So pretty, so pretty. Here we got a Turk's Cap Lily that's being put to good use. There's Turk's Cap Lily and Carolina. This one's Turk's Cap because it is well over the 3 feet or so that the Carolina lily does, and if I'm not mistaken, that green making a star pattern
indicates Turk's Cap Lily, whereas the green in the Carolina lily forms a tight circular ring around the base of the carpel. I've also learned that Turk's Cap Lily has longer, thinner leaves compared to the Carolina lily.
Almost directly behind me, about maybe 1/8 of a mile, is Cosby Knob itself. So I'm hoping this is Cosby Knob Shelter. Okay, I think you can see it here. That is the Cosby Knob Shelter. So that means we are not far from Low Gap. Yep, here's the entrance down to the shelter. Just a scant, what, 1/10 of a mile down there. So we'll just continue this way for a little further. I'm thinking just 2 or 3/10. I think it's 3/10 of a mile to Low Gap itself. We're finally there, I think. In fact, I'd bet on it. You don't go through a choke green tunnel else and get a big, wide, flattened, cleared out area unless there's something going on, like intersection with another trail or junction. Not all junctions are like that, but often they are. And I can see on the other side that it goes uphill. I know Low Gap is going to be, would you believe, a low gap? So this, I'm certain that this is it. Yep, I see the sign. Sure enough, there she be. All right, 2.9 miles, and I will be back in my car.
Sadly, my boundless brilliance resulted in that not being the case. But I'll let you see why in just a moment.
If you go down that way, that one's going to take you down to Walnut Bottom, that campsite where Big Creek terminates. The trail, that is. But we're going to take a moment, sit down, enjoy it, and then we're going to head down the trail.
You'll recall that less than a minute ago I mentioned my boundless brilliance. Well, here's what I was talking about.
Well, this part is both embarrassing and exhausting. Here I am within 7/10 of a mile.
Actually, it's more like 1.3 miles.
Of finishing the hike. I stop, I rest right here where I'm sitting. Then I get my pack on, grab my sticks, and I head on down until I see a sign about 3/10 from where I'm going to finish the hike. Then I realized, oh, I want to film this. I look and I don't have the camera or the gimbal. Guess where it was? Right here. So I'm going to rest. I ditched my pack when I came back up, so I'm going to have to run back down and grab it. But sheesh, I did not need an extra mile.
Actually, it's a little over a mile back up here, and it's going to be a little over a mile back down. So it's more like 2 extra miles plus.
Tagged on at the end of today. Gotta pay attention every second. I'm back down to where
I had left my pack, and
here's what I was going to show you. Okay. We can take either one to get back, but I'm going to take the Cosmic Campground Point 4 in that direction. Let's get going. Okay. We had quite a hike today. A number of things we didn't expect, not the least of which was leaving camera and gimbal a little over a mile up the trail, having to hoof it all the way back up, grab it, and then come all the way back down. That didn't help. But nevertheless, we finished another adventure in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. It was a great one. We met some wonderful people at the shelters. We saw some incredible sights. And I appreciate you letting me take you along. Please, folks, it would mean the world to me if you could help me get this channel a little more exposure, to like the video, you know, all that, ring the notification bell, I'll share it. Oh, that'd be wonderful. If you could do that, it'd be great. This is Graybeard for the Sylvan Reflections channel. I will see you next time.
if you like this video, please consider clicking the like, subscribe, and notification bell.